welcome to Love.Live.Local. So basically I created this Facebook page to talk to all the businesses and charities and events people around the area. And so today I'm really excited about this, to talk to Dan from Matakana Cinemas. G'day, Dan.
Hi, Brent. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Now, can you give me a bit of a background on and how your journey to Matakana Cinemas?
Okay, well, we have to go back to the bad old days here, Brent. Because,
Okay.
we're talking about 2008 when I started working here. I started in my 20s, and I'd been working up here for a few years after having moved in to the area around 2005. And under the previous management, John and Heather Hart, I took on a few days a week, and I was working with a chap by the name of Dennis Keith, who was our longtime projectionist.
Right.
Dennis retired a couple of years ago, and I was learning how to splice 35mm film, and back then we were playing the old flicking film through the projectors, and of course it's all digital now. But yeah, that's when I first started here, and I was just working a couple of days a week doing some night shifts.
Oh, that's brilliant. It reminds me of when I was at school. I was a projectionist at school. I remember showing showing Lord of the Flies to everybody at school, and then having to splice and cut it when the film broke. So lots of practice back in the early days.
Yep. I mean, if you ended up with a film on the floor, it was pretty painful. That happened to me only once.
Right.
I had a guest come out one night and say, "The film stopped working. The film's just gone off screen." And I was like, "What?" So I ran upstairs, and there was a pile of film on the floor, and it was getting bigger and bigger every second. So I shouldn't have talked about that, actually, because now I'm going to have nightmares again.
Yeah, it's a projectionist's worst nightmare. So can you give us a bit of a background about Matakana Cinemas?
Sure. So in terms of the cinema itself, I can give you a bit of background, but it's probably best to go a little bit further back, when Richard and Christine Didsbury had the idea or the concept to create what we now know as the Matakana Village Complex. And it came off the back of the idea of having the Matakana Farmers Market, of course. And that was put in where the old sawmill was in the current site. And then Richard had this great brainstorm about putting in retail and restaurants, and why would people want to come to a place like this for a night out or an afternoon out, and what other bells and whistles could you add to that? So let's put in a cinema. So you've got food and dining, you've got a bar, the Vintry, you've got shopping, and you've got the cinema. And interestingly enough, it's become a real model for how a successful sort of grouping of retail and service businesses can work. You see it happening a lot in malls, but for it to happen in a small town, I think, as an overall concept, was a really interesting idea. So when the cinema got put in and we opened in late 2006, I think we opened, off the top of my head, with the film called The Queen, which had Helen Mirren.
Oh, yes, yep.
Happy Feet 2, and Casino Royale, the Bond film, Daniel Craig's first Bond film. So if you want me to just always go back to movies themselves, I can actually remember the films we opened with. So yeah, and then, here we are 15 years later. It's been the most challenging time for cinema worldwide, let alone us. Yet, we're still standing and really excited about what we can sort of push through with after what everyone's been through.
Yeah, which is, part of it is too that it's a real different experience coming to Matakana Cinemas. You got beautiful theatres. We always talk about the birds and the flowers and the different cinemas you got, but it just feels a lot better to come in there rather than your big commercial ones. It's that boutique feeling, and you take a little bit of ownership of going in there.
Yeah. We know that. We're acutely aware of what we mean to the community, and we've already had people walking in, because we are on site at the moment. We're not open, of course. We open on the 28th of May. And people are walking in, "When are you open? We can't wait for you to open." We've had amazing Facebook messages from our community. The one thing I've missed is going to the cinema, and really, really nice feedback to have. And it just reminds you, or reminds us of why we're here and why we do it. I'm always interested to ask people what it is they feel that is the big difference between, say, going to a larger cinema complex from a chain versus a smaller independent cinema that's in a small town. I mean, we're family run, and we work really hard at it to make sure that our team, we put our best foot forward every time someone walks through the door. I think that's definitely something that rubs off on the community, and to have all those messages just tells us that people are really looking forward to us reopening.
Yeah, I think so. So during the lockdown, I mean, as you say, it's been a tough time for cinema worldwide. And of course, now we're at alert level 2 and we can start having people back in cinemas. Trouble is, there's not a lot of movies coming out because they've all been put on hold in the Northern Hemisphere, right?
Yeah, that's right. Something that has become very clear with what we've been through for the last 8 weeks is that things happen really fast, right?
Mm.
So one day people can be talking about one thing or one aspect of, say, lockdown, and then 2 days later things look better or they look worse. And I can tell you at the moment that's what's happening with films releasing. There's a lot of really positive rumblings going on in the industry. So, for example, we had a new poster come out from Warner Brothers with the new Wonder Woman 1984 film, which is due to release on August the 13th. They released a new poster with that date on it. So it's just a little subtle message to say that, hey, we're sticking with this date for now. Cinemas are starting to consider opening in Australia, and also cinemas are opening abroad. We'll see how that transpires, but for now, that's really positive. Now, what that means is, being in a really small market relative to the rest of the world here in New Zealand, is that we have really no sway on when those big films get released.
Right.
So it really needs to have those big markets like the US, China, Japan, France, Germany, opening their cinemas for the big films to really be locked in for release. So we're seeing more of that, and every day that goes by, there's sort of more positive messaging coming out from the film studios. But look, there are small films out there as well. And, what we've got planned for reopening is the concept, and I know that you'll probably go a nice segue, Dan.
Yeah,
But
it's beautiful.
I've been practicing all morning, Brent.
Good man.
Is, people have missed something, right? Yes, we've been sitting at home and there's been some like outstanding stuff on streaming, and I won't shy away from talking about streaming because I really feel that people are into, relaxing and watching a movie or watching a great TV series. They will still go to the cinema to see something they really want to catch because they want to see it when it's fresh or it's new. Of course, we can't get that fresh or new content. The other aspect is that it's really enjoyable to leave your house, turn your phone off, go and sit in a room where you don't have any distractions. You can get your favorite ice cream. You can go and see your favorite cinema crew.
Yeah.
And you can check out a movie that you either missed when it was in release earlier, or you're going to catch up with some friends and you're just going to have that cinema experience. And I still believe that there is absolutely a place in the social fabric of our town, New Zealand, and worldwide for cinemas to exist. So, yeah, we've got a whole bunch of films coming in. None of it is new. It's either recently released, relatively recently released, or old classics.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to show those, and we're going to be doing some really interesting pricing structures. We're also going to, nice deals for those first couple of weeks. And I've got some really exciting news, which we're going to start talking about over the next few days, about some Q&As with local filmmakers and cinematographers.
Oh,
because
brilliant.
the reality is, a lot of them, they're not in the US, they're back home in New Zealand where they'd love to be rather than, over in the US.
Yeah.
And they're just biding their time till they can move back stateside. So we've got some excellent talent, some names that are household in our country that will be coming on board to help us out with the relaunch of the cinema.
Oh, that is fantastic. So for people to find out all the details about that, where's the best place to go?
Really good question, because we have, as I said, had people coming into the cinema and they're saying, when do you open? And, you feel like you've pushed out as much information as you can through social media.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that even though it's a very common way of pushing information out, a lot of people just don't check a Facebook page or check your website. So they would be the first ports of call. Check our website for updates, check Facebook and occasionally Instagram. But of course, you can always call us. We're often on site at the moment. We're cleaning and getting everything ready for people returning. And we'll also start pushing out our newspaper advertising as well. So yeah, I guess it's just to watch this space, try and keep up with all of our channels that we usually push media out through. And of course, don't hesitate to give us a call or flick us an email.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. And thank you for the newsletter that you've put out over this whole time. It's been great reading, the crew's recommendations for movies and just keeping everybody up to date. I mean, it's just been great to still have that. I think it just builds the excitement waiting for going back to the movies, because I'm a massive movie buff. So is my
Yeah.
family. We love it. We can't wait to come back and see you guys.
Yeah, well, we're working really hard on how it's going to look when we reopen. I guess it's not a bad idea for me to mention that we're going to be very, very diligent when it comes to being as contactless as possible.
Sure.
And speaking of telling people what's going on, Brent, why not right now? So essentially, we're going to try and move people to booking online as much as possible. If you are going to come on site to purchase a ticket at the box office and pick up some concessions or something, we'll have the team um, at the box office ready to go. We'll have our ticket printers on the counter so you can take your own ticket without us having to touch it. And then on the doors, we'll have what's called Usher Point, which is using an iOS device. And we can barcode scan your ticket, so we don't even need to touch it and tear it. And you can head into the cinema. Of course, we're practicing social distancing in the theaters with alternate rows open. And we'll be doing a sort of a trust-based system where people just sit separately, one seat apart. When you do book online, once you've booked your group in, say you want to book in you and the family, so 5 or so seats, automatically it'll close off each seat on either side of your group when you book. So it's through Visi, our online software system. It makes it really easy. The team will have hand sanitizer everywhere, and please wash your hands and all the signage up and that kind of stuff. Everyone's getting pretty used to it, which is fantastic. And it's of utmost importance for us to look after the team first and foremost, make sure they're happy and healthy at work. And then of course that flows on to our guests. So we're so stoked about welcoming everyone back, and just reiterate that, we'll have the place spick and span, and please don't worry about coming out to a social space. We're doing all we can to make sure everyone feels safe.
All right. Really appreciate that, Dan. And thank you so much for talking to me today.
Hey, thanks so much, Brent.